combustion engine. V8, spark plug, camshaft, oil change, and coolant leak. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what you might hear from your mechanic telling you of what parts they ordered, what's wrong with the car, and the maintenance they did. This is where you'll find yourself probably nodding your head and agreeing to what they're saying. Well, in this speech, I'm going to help you understand what they're telling you. We're going to talk about one part of the car that most of you should know, is the engine. Quote, there are many parts in a modern engine, each essential to the engine operation. End quote. Well, how does an engine work? During my speech, I'll inform you on some terms you'll need to know, how two of the most common engines work, and I'll also talk about the purpose of the coolant and lubrication systems. So terms. I'll be showing you some terms that I'll be using in my speech. These terms will help you understand the concept of the internal combustion engine. Okay, internal combustion engine. Quote, internal combustion means burning within. Engine refers to the device in which the fuel is burned, end quote. TDC and BDC. TDC is a top dead center, is when the piston is all the way at the top of at the highest part in the cylinder, and the BDC is the bottom center, when the piston is at the bottom part of the cylinder. Camshaft. A camshaft is what activates the cylinder's intake and exhaust valves. A valve is what opens and closes to allow fuel-air mixture into the cylinder or to let out exhaust fumes from the cylinder when the fuel-air mixture is burned. Spark plug. A spark plug is what ignites the air-fuel mixture. Piston is a moving disc enclosed in the cylinder, which is made gas-tight by piston rings. A cylinder is what houses the pistons. Okay. Now we move on to how the engines operate. The reason I'm showing you this is because you need to know the basic operation of your engine and to show you what's responsible for the adrenaline when you step on that gas pedal. Gasoline engines. They come in many configurations and sizes, ranging from 1 piston to maybe 32 pistons. They come from the V form, the W form, or a flat 4, but that's for a different day. So, the 4-stroke of a gasoline engine, or the Otto cycle. How this works is the intake, compression, power, and exhaust. For the intake is when the piston is going down and the intake valve is open and letting in the air-fuel mixture. Then leads to the compression when the piston is going back up to compress the air-fuel mixture, which makes the temperature hotter and is more likely to spark. It then goes to the power, where the spark plug, which we discussed, ignites the fuel mixture, which makes power, sending down the piston. And since the gasoline makes fumes, it needs to get out somehow. So then the piston goes back up for the last stroke, which sends the exhaust fumes through an open exhaust valve, which sends it to the exhaust port. And this process repeats during when your engine is running. Diesel engine. There are many diesel engines and gasoline engines are pretty similar. They run on the same 4-stroke operation, but there's some differences. Well, there's the fuel. Diesel engines run on diesel. It's much different than gasoline because they require no spark plugs to ignite the mixture. And okay, so the 4 strokes of a diesel engine. The first one is a suction stroke, the second one is a compression, third is power, and the fourth is exhaust. So for the suction stroke, it's a little different from this one. Instead of just an air-fuel mixture coming in, it just lets in air because the piston is going down. Then goes to the compression, which compresses the air to up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not enough for the fuel to ignite. So for the power stroke, the fuel is then injected into the cylinder, which then ignites on touch to the air mixture, and which sends the piston down, and then, as usual, the exhaust stroke. It goes back up to let out the exhaust fumes to the exhaust port. This process repeats the same as the gasoline engine. Okay, coolant and lubrication systems. I'll be telling you about why these systems are necessary for an engine, and why you'll find yourself getting them changed every so often at the mechanic. Coolant system. Why do you need it? The reason why you need a coolant system is because the engine produces a lot of heat, internal combustion. 1/3 of the heat that is produced is used for power. The rest of it is just excess heat. And if you do not have a coolant system, the engine will wear down very quickly. So, there is a water pump that is connected to the belt that the engine runs, which sends coolant through passages of the cylinder block to cool it down. When the coolant gets hot enough, the coolant is sent to the radiator to release the heat, and to cool down the coolant. Then the coolant is then sent back to either where it's stored or back to the engine. And this process keeps on repeating throughout the process of the engine running. Okay. Lubrication system. Now, lubrication is based on engine oil or motor oil, depending on how you want to call it. And why you need this is because there's a lot of friction going on, mostly in the chamber where the piston is rubbing against the cylinder, and if there was no lubrication in there, the engine would wear down very quickly, and it cost you a new engine. And there's two other jobs for the lubrication system. There's cooling and sealing. Now, such as the coolant system, the lubrication system also does some cooling. The oil that is sent through different passages in the cylinder block, and is also hit by the piston going down, will splash the oil onto the cylinder, which cools down more engine parts. And it also seals. No matter how airtight the piston rings are on the piston, there's always a possibility that the air-fuel mixture will be let out. So, oil is the next product to be the sealant. Oil and coolant have to be changed several times a year. Oil way more than coolant, because due to them collecting dust, carbon, and sludge, which can affect the engine's performance. And if you don't change them, like if you don't change them in 2 years, your engine might blow up. It's a possibility. And so now that you know how an engine works, and these two systems work, you now know what pushes you from 0 to 60 miles per hour in seconds. However, this is only a simple engine. Engines are much more complicated today. Hopefully you know what the mechanic is telling you when you get your car fixed or maintenance. Thank you for listening to my speech.